Warning: the following video contains explicit language which may be offensive to some viewers or inappropriate for children. The content within this video is intended for mature audiences only.
Are you ready? Hey everybody, it's Jeff. Hope you had a good Valentine's Day yesterday. I was like all over hell and back yesterday, and I didn't really have the energy to fucking do a video yesterday. Plus I had to do some work here in the apartment. I got myself a new washing machine, and that became a little more of a job than I was expecting, so I was pretty wore out. Plus, I had to lug that monster in here and everything. Christ, thing weighed a ton. So I got a video, and it is 30 minutes long. Okay, so that means the whole first half of my video was going to be just that, and it's concerning the issue about maybe people are not feeling like the Democrats are really helping here in the way that we expect them to against Trump, because Trump, MAGA, all that, everybody associated with it, they're extremists. Okay, they're a cultist kind of thing. All right, and they're not even really Republicans. they're just a cult. And for Democrats, they're going to have to oppose them almost equally as a cult. Okay, an action creates an equal opposite reaction. And we're not seeing the equal and opposite reaction here, I think. So anyway, that's what this video is about. So let's go to the video here, and then we'll go to a commercial break after, and then we'll come back and we'll have the second segment. So let's go to the movie.
I haven't seen people so aroused in a very, very long time.
I'm trying to figure out what leverage we actually have. What leverage do we have? They control the House, the Senate, and the presidency. It's their government.
We will win! 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 We won't rest! We won't rest! We won't rest!
Hey, does anyone else wake up every morning with an overwhelming feeling of existential dread? Because that's where I feel like I'm at these days. It's already bad enough that our fascist president is effectively second in command to a Nazi billionaire who's basically the de facto president at this point. But to add insult to injury, their opposition is so feckless and incompetent that it's hard to not just write them off as controlled opposition. Now, with that being said, there are Democrats who have stepped up. AOC, Jasmine Crockett, Ayanna Pressley, Ilhan Omar, Jamie Raskin, Maxwell Frost, Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, not to mention Democratic governors like J.B. Pritzker, Tim Walz, and Andy Beshear, among others. But the problem is that the few Democrats who actually are effective communicators aren't in actual positions of leadership. Instead, the faces of the opposition to fascists includes Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer, who are useless and, quite frankly, fascist collaborators themselves. And I say that because they've made it clear that they don't want to fight the Republican Party. They'd rather hold hands with them and sing Kumbaya, or we stand with Israel in lieu of Kumbaya.
We stand with Israel! We stand with Israel! We stand with Israel!
Do you not feel inspired by that? Doesn't it make you feel all warm and fuzzy when the leaders of the Democratic Party lock hands with a Christian nationalist in support of an ethno-nationalist regime doing a genocide? I mean, I personally feel so fucking encouraged to see that kind of unity. It's beautiful, right? But to be clear, the Democratic Party's leaders aren't just morally bankrupt and painfully out of touch. They are also deeply fucking incompetent. Case in point.
The public did not give Trump a mandate to dismantle the whole chunks of the federal government. Gave him a mandate to, kick the tires, check the dipstick, and make sure that things are running well and efficiently. In that part, he has a mandate.
Why the fuck are you saying that Trump has a mandate on national television when he doesn't? This election was not a landslide. He does not have a mandate. He won by a 1.5% vote margin, and yet you think that gives him permission to unilaterally permafuck our government into oblivion? And you're saying that on TV? What is wrong with you? By the way, this is the Democratic Party's guy. They passed up AOC to give this guy the top Democratic position on the House Oversight Committee. He's the face of the resistance among House Democrats, aside from Hakeem Jeffries. They had the choice between a young, popular, and charismatic leader with a massive social media following, and they opted for that guy, a 74-year-old centrist with terminal cancer. But to be fair, his tweets have actually been popping off lately. For example, one of them almost got 60 likes on Twitter, and there were only 15 comments this time exclusively shitting on him. So, glass half full, am I right? But I've got another example. So the DNC just voted to replace their old DNC chair, Jamie Harrison, who was promoted to that position, by the way, after losing an election. Great choice. And they had some pretty decent choices, right? Ben Wickler, Faiz Shakir. But instead, they went with the guy who boasted about how the party is definitely still going to take money from billionaires. But don't you worry, they're only going to take money from the good billionaires.
There are a lot of good billionaires out there that have been with Democrats who share our values, and we will take their money, but we're not taking money from those bad billionaires.
Here, thank you, Joe Martin.
That tone-deaf comment right there should have been disqualifying, but he said that, pissed a bunch of people off, and then the DNC thought, let's make that guy the DNC chair. Democrats are incapable of reading the room. We're in an era where you have celebrities like Ethel Cain and Bill Burr publicly saying we should Luigi billionaires to thunderous applause, yet the DNC chair is pretending like there's actually good billionaires when he knows that's an insidious lie. Now, to be clear, I don't want to create a false equivalence by shitting on the Democratic Party, because even though I do believe that both parties are bad, they're not equally bad. They're not even comparable. Democrats are a moderate party, which I don't like because I'm a leftist. But the Republican Party have spiraled into basically what can only be described as a fucking death cult at this point. One is obviously worse than the other. But for nearly a decade, the Democratic Party has tried to coast by simply by not being Republicans. They've convinced themselves that that's good enough. That's all they have to do. Just say, hey, I'm not the Republicans. Look at how bad they are. Aren't we reasonable in comparison? But as this last election taught us, the people they want more. They expect more. They deserve more. And the sheer evilness of the Republican Party should, in theory, be viewed as an opportunity for Democrats. They could be the party that's opposed to everything that these fascists stand for. They could give us an alternative vision with a concrete plan to actually make it a reality. They could do a bunch of things, but they're not. They're squandering this opportunity. The party as a whole is just too entrenched in the status quo and too beholden to their corporate donors to enact any sort of meaningful changes, at least internally. And leadership, they just don't want to take the party in a more bold and progressive direction. That's part of the reason why they got to that leadership position in the first place, aside from the fact that they can raise a lot of money, but they're fundamentally incapable of meeting this moment. And we have to acknowledge this if we're going to fucking survive. Somebody on Twitter put it best. They said that we need wartime leaders in this moment, not technocratic managers of the status quo who finger wag at the bad things that Trump is doing. We need a South Korean style opposition party that will put their bodies on the line, climb through windows, scale buildings if they have to, if Doge is going to lock them out of government agencies. We need rabble rousers who will do everything in their power to uproot the status quo. But instead, we got Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer. I'm sorry. We cannot just sit back and accept that this is our fate and accept that these are going to be our leaders during this time. The only chance we have of surviving these next couple of years is to have new Democratic leaders who actually know what the fuck they are doing. And there isn't a single person who believes that Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries are up to the task, because they aren't. And that's very obvious. For example, Chuck Schumer signaled his intent to preemptively capitulate to Republicans ahead of a funding showdown to stop a government shutdown. And he made it clear that he's ready to seek a bipartisan solution to keep the government funded. But I mean, this is a major piece of leverage that he just gave away. Republicans control all branches of government, so Americans will blame Republicans if there's a shutdown. use that to your advantage. Shut down the government if you need to. Shut it down until Trump agrees to stop breaking the law with Elon Musk's Doge. Make them come to you. Don't go to them. They need 60 votes in the Senate. Make them earn those votes. You should be obstructing every single thing that they do. I mean, I don't understand why this isn't something that's just obvious to them, right? Do to Trump what McConnell did to Obama. Don't even let them name a fucking post office. Stop them from doing anything. Learn how to wield the minimal amount of power that you have. Slow down everything. Demand roll call votes. Call for a quorum. Then don't give them a quorum so they can't do shit. Do your best to bring the entire government to a halt. And while you obstruct, also rebuild bridges that you broke, right? Rebuild the trust that you lost with communities, the Arab American and Muslim community, young people, marginalized people, people of color. But that's just not happening. They're not doing that right now. It feels like they're doing shit. Instead, Hakeem Jeffries is actually trying to rebuild the only bridge that matters to him, I guess. As Politico reports, Jeffries met with more than 150 Silicon Valley donors recently to mend their relationship. Quote, there is a significant fear that these tech folks who have been with us for a long time will say, fuck it, we're going with the other guys, said Alex Hoffman, a Democratic donor advisor who works with donors across the country but did not attend the event. These donors are also pissed, watching former and current colleagues have unlimited unchecked power and getting richer off of this, and they're not. Democrats are trying to mend fences, and they're also trying to keep them in the tent, Hoffman added. Yeah, the fact that this is the first group the House Democratic Party leader is reaching out to after the election tells you everything you need to know. And what promises are you making to these rich people behind closed doors, Hakeem? What are you saying to them to keep them in the tent? Are you promising them more power, more deregulation? Are working class people going to get those same commitments? See, this is a problem. And to be clear, even though I'm griping about leadership, it is a systemic issue within the Democratic Party. And I say this because Ruben Gallego, for example, the newly elected senator from Arizona who replaced Kyrsten Sinema, is going to a luxury retreat with crypto billionaire Mark Andreessen. And keep in mind, Gallego is supposed to be regulating this guy, but he's chumming it up with him. And this comes after Gallego joined Republicans to vote for the xenophobic Laken-Riley Act, which denies due process rights to immigrants, including children and dreamers. So if you thought that, we replaced Kyrsten Sinema with somebody good, think again. But this is why, that right there is why the Democratic Party needs new leaders. Leaders who are going to change the status quo and force the rest of the party to stop selling out to wealthy elites. But they refuse to be pried away from the corporate teat that they're suckling on because it's just easier to do it that way than to raise money via grassroots, right? They're trying to be the party of the working class and the party of the good billionaires at the same time, but it doesn't work like that. You have to pick a side, but they won't because they're trying to have it both ways. And that conflict right there is why they're in this spot, why nobody trusts them. Right? Because at the end of the day, they can make promises to voters, which they're not even arguably doing at this point. But voters know when push comes to shove, they're going to answer the phone call to a donor and not to them. They're going to do what their donors want and not what they want. But to Democrats, they don't actually feel like they need to change anything. In fact, they think that it's a messaging issue, not a policy issue. And they genuinely believe that so long as they sufficiently get out the message better and more effectively, then everything is going to be copacetic. That solves all of their problems. No systemic issues whatsoever. And because they have this misguided belief, the only change that they've tried to actually make since losing the last election was to just get better at messaging. So what are they doing? I'll show you. So in late January, the New York Times reported that certain Democratic governors had a really tense call with National Democratic Party leadership because they felt like the party just wasn't doing enough to fight Donald Trump, and they felt like they had to shoulder the burden of being the resistance at the state level, and they just wanted national Democrats to do more. Now, Chuck Schumer defended himself, arguing that they were pushing back against Trump, but this supposed pushback was almost exclusively through better messaging, and better is doing a lot of work here, right? So Schumer put Cory Booker in charge of the Democratic Party's social media strategy, and I'm just going to read this paragraph from the New York Times to show you what I mean. Quote, last week, Mr. Booker delivered a PowerPoint presentation to fellow Democrats about how to deliver their message online. In the slides, which were obtained by the New York Times, Mr. Booker offered his colleagues guidance on how often to post on each platform. Instagram, once or twice a day. Facebook, once a day. LinkedIn, 3 to 5 times a week. X, 2 to 5 times a day. TikTok, 1 to 4 times a day. In other words, That's their idea of resistance. You know, since the underlying problem is a messaging one, then all they have to do is make sure that they make more social media posts more effectively. And then voila, you're back in the good graces of the American people. Like, they genuinely do not understand that it's not a messaging problem. I mean, that could use work too, sure, but it's primarily a policy problem. You can't just say that you think Trump's policies are bad, because we already know that. That's insufficient. The key is to provide people with solutions to these problems. So that way they're not looking for answers from a demagogue fascist like Donald Trump. And once you present an alternative vision to voters, you then have to fight with everything you have to enact that vision, right? Meaningfully deliver for them. No excuses about the parliamentarian. No bullshit excuses that we never hear from Republicans. They just do what they can to push through whatever the fuck they want to push through. We want you to wield power in the way that the evil people wield power, but they just don't get it. And to demonstrate this, Hakeem Jeffries went on Jon Stewart's podcast, and to describe this interview as painful would be an understatement. Just listen to what Hakeem Jeffries says when Jon Stewart asks him why Democrats don't have their own version of Project 2025.
Where is the Democrats' Project 2025? Is that underway? Where's the infrastructure to do that? And who are the leaders taking charge of that effort? Because when I listened to, I believe his name is Ken Martin, is that correct? The new DNC chair?
That's right.
He kept saying it's a messaging issue, as though, no, everything's going right, you just don't realize it yet. As opposed to, we've gotten away from New Deal values. Does that make sense to you?
Well, I think there's a few things going on here.
Yeah.
In terms of how we better communicate with the American people, Maya Angelou said it best. People won't remember what you say. They may not even remember what you do, but they will always remember how you make them feel. And I think what we have to do a better job of is making the American people feel that we understand the pain that they've been in economically.
First of all, this guy has no riz whatsoever. Second of all, we don't need to feel listened to, Hakeem. We need to feel our material conditions drastically improve. I mean, why even bother to listen to us if it's just going to go in one ear and out the other? And I'm sorry, don't give me this bullshit that you're listening to voters, because over the last year or so, voters have been begging you to stop supporting the genocide in Gaza. And what has the party collectively told us? To get fucked. So you're not even good at that too. Now, sure, you might have listened to your constituents at town halls. They chewed you out. But, you know, it's not going to mean anything if the listening doesn't translate into action. But he doesn't get it. And even though he goes on to cite issues that Americans face, like the cost of living and inflation, which indicates that he's listening to us, he only responds to that by saying we have to do something about it, while not explaining what the something is. There's no specificity here. And as you're going to see, Jon Stewart is going to try to gently guide him to the right direction by hinting that it's a policy problem, not a messaging problem, but Hakeem does not take the hint.
If I'm living in an area of entrenched economic pain, right? And I've got a party saying, we've got to understand what you're going through and we've got to do something. At a certain point, those are just platitudes. You know, you've got Trump out there going, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to deport these people, trans people. They're the ones that are causing your problem. These people are going. Everything is specific and pointed and planned, right? Where is that? Like, what's the playbook?
So politically, I think one of the reasons why we've seen the pendulum swing back and forth, it went from George H.W. Bush to Bill Clinton to George W. Bush, George W. Bush to Barack Obama to Donald Trump to Joe Biden back to Donald Trump. And
you're getting me dizzy.
It's a dizzying swing of the pendulum with very different people who have very different ideologies. What's consistent? The American people have a constant desire for change. Why? Because no one has solved the fundamental problem.
That's interesting.
Now, here's the thing about Democrats. Under Barack Obama, we did deal with the healthcare affordability crisis. The Affordable Care Act has been transformational. We were doing the work. Perhaps we were not speaking as forcefully as necessary to say, you know what? We understand.
It's amazing how he came so close, but then he crashed and burned at the last second. It's true that the pendulum does swing back and forth between Democrats and Republicans, but the reason why that's happening is because neither party is enacting the transformational change necessary to actually improve material conditions. But he thinks that the Democratic Party did. He actually thinks they delivered, and they're just not good at telling the voters the transformational changes that they made. And the example that he uses is the Affordable Care Act. Really? If that were true, wouldn't the pendulum have not swung back to Donald Trump after Obama's second term? Wouldn't Hillary Clinton have won? So good job proving my point for me. But the ACA, I'll admit, is an improvement, yes. But it's still a neoliberal healthcare plan originally devised by the Heritage Foundation, which is the organization that wrote Project 2025. I think we can do better than that. I think you know what the base wants, Hakeem. We want Medicare for all. But he can't commit to that because the party's health industry donors would abandon them if he did. And this comes back to this conflict within the Democratic Party's tent. They want to be the party for Americans who want healthcare to be a right, but they also want to be the party of the health insurance CEOs. They want to present themselves as business friendly, right? And the problem is that the tent has become so big that it's now ideologically incoherent. You know, if the party is big enough to include progressives and Republicans like Liz Cheney and poor people and rich people, that party is not long for this world. The structure of the party is collapsing in on itself. You have to pick a fucking side. But I mean, they kind of did, right? And it wasn't us. Now, that interview, believe it or not, got worse. And Jon Stewart is going to acknowledge the benefits of the ACA while trying to get Hakeem to see that it's obviously inadequate. But watch how he responds to that.
It has gotten, I don't know how many millions of people health insurance. But the way that it's done it is sort of a Republicanized, almost like a privatization. It's kind of, if you will, a subsidy to the insurance companies. A promise that, like, look, if you take people with pre-existing conditions, we'll give you from the government $500 a month to subsidize these plans that we will have access to. But we're not going to fix what's at the heart of our healthcare system. Are the Democrats not thinking big enough to change the relationship between, you know, this whole idea of having to fight to lower insulin costs, as though that's like, you know, oh, we got 10 drugs that we can now negotiate with. Like, don't they have to be clearer, stronger, and change that relationship to get government to deliver these services directly and effectively?
Well, I think the Affordable Care Act, it's been an interesting journey, and
I like that phrase.
No, a very important one.
Yes.
In terms of what has happened transformationally, you're talking about more than 100 million Americans with pre-existing healthcare conditions who now have coverage because of the Affordable Care Act. When that battle was being waged, and I wasn't in Congress at the time,
right,
it was still unclear, John, in America, whether healthcare was a right or a privilege. That was an open question. It's no longer an open question. We at least understand that access to high quality, affordable healthcare is a right.
My point is, are they too comfortable within a system that seems not to be delivering? And do we need to take an approach that is more clear and direct to say to people, like, if healthcare is a right, I'm not sure that the ACA is the most efficient way of delivering that right.
I think it's a fair question, certainly, that you're asking. But, you know, the way that healthcare has developed in the United States of America has been a far too cumbersome and complicated system. And what we've seen is a series of steps that have been taken to try to make it as equitable as possible. You've got Medicare and then Medicaid.
Now, he goes on to gish gallop about the history of incremental healthcare reform while never addressing the elephant in the room, Medicare for all. And I had to cut out a lot from that because there's so much fluff that the clip would literally be like 6 minutes long if I didn't try to cut it where possible. And if you watch the full thing, I swear to God, it's so insufferable. It feels like I'm listening to Hakeem Jeffries go over a PowerPoint plan where he's like, here's our 4-point plan, here's our 3-point plan, here's our saying. It's an acronym. It's insufferable. I don't think he understands that we don't want to listen to this. We want to hear from a human, not a robot. Now, I'm not sure if you noticed what he did there, but he said before the ACA, it was debatable about whether or not healthcare was a right. But then he switches it. And he says now they've established that access to healthcare, that is indeed a right. But Hakeem, we just saw what you did. You are a fucking weasel. You did a switcheroo and you didn't think that we would notice. See, there's a difference between the right to healthcare and the right to access to healthcare. You added access when we didn't want that. Like, you misconstrued what we said, you hijacked our messaging, and you inserted access in there, and you're now pretending like you've delivered on the thing that we asked you for when you didn't. You know you didn't. And therein lies the problem. They don't want to give the base what it wants because they've made the decision to prioritize donors over the voters. It's that simple, right? And he thinks that the doublespeak and the platitudes is going to suffice, that we'll just take it and eat it up. But he doesn't realize that that's not going to be sufficient any longer. People are fucking pissed off and they're not taking those talking points. To show you what I mean, just take a look at the comment section under that video. Usually John's podcast episodes give me food for thought. This time it helped lull me into an afternoon power nap. My God, this can't be the future of Democratic leadership. Jeffries is the embodiment of everything wrong with this party. Under Obama, we did deal with the healthcare affordability issue. No, you dealt with insurance coverage issues. Healthcare is still unaffordable and run by insurance. We need single-payer healthcare. Bernie interview, amazing. AOC interview, inspiring. This interview, painful. Establishment Dems clearly don't have a plan. Stewart gave him a billion chances to say single-payer health insurance, and Jeffries just couldn't do it. Pathetic. This was frightening. We have no serious opposition. I wasn't expecting much, but I was expecting something. I can't. This guy and Schumer are the two Democratic leaders in Congress. They have the charisma and drive of a wet mop. We need fighters, and we need them now, like AOC and Crockett. Less BS talking, more action. I don't think I've ever stopped one of these podcast episodes early, but I couldn't get through this one. I want to scream. Where's our Project 2025? Anyone, please? We've tried nothing and we're all out of ideas, the Democratic Party. Is Jeffries capable of having a substantive conversation without sounding like he's ticking off talking points from his checklist? The future of the party, indeed. No, Hakeem, it is not about telling Americans you understand how they feel. It is about solving problems. Americans don't want you to keep telling us you understand. They want you to fix shit. And every time you all get power to fix shit, you don't. That is the problem. And I kid you not, every single comment that I saw was against Jeffries. These are liberal viewers of Jon Stewart's podcast. They are not Republicans. They just want a party that is going to fight for them. And what we saw was not any assurance whatsoever that Hakeem Jeffries is going to do just that. And this is part of the reason why the Democratic Party lost. It's not so much that Trump and the Republicans won, but I think it's because the Democratic Party, they lost. They just didn't turn out enough of their base. They failed to listen to and mobilize their base. I mean, in the last month of Kamala's campaign, she spent that time courting Republicans as opposed to progressives who were weary about her Gaza policy. And it's just so frustrating because the Democratic Party's base is fired up and angry. And that's a good thing, right? The Democratic Party should use this, but they're doing nothing to harness that energy. In fact, they're actually mad that their constituents have the audacity to call their offices and ask them to do their jobs. I'm not making this up. Axios reports, quote, members of the Steering and Policy Committee with House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries in the room on Monday complained activist groups like Move On and Indivisible have facilitated thousands of phone calls to members' offices. People are pissed, a senior House Democrat who was at the meeting said, of lawmakers' reaction to the calls. The Democrat said Jeffries himself is very frustrated at the groups who are trying to stir up a more confrontational opposition to Trump. Wow. There were a lot of people who were like, we've got to stop the groups from doing this. People are concerned that they're saying we're not doing enough, but we're not in the majority, said one member. Some Democrats see the callers as barking up the wrong tree given their limited power as the minority party in Congress. It's been a constant theme of us saying, please call the Republicans, said Representative Don Beyer. They're calling their representative, dumbass. Quote, I reject and resent the implication that congressional Democrats are simply standing by passively, said Representative Richie Torres. Unbelievable. Now, to be clear, these progressive organizations that they're pissed off with, Move On, Indivisible, they're telling people that these are specific things that your elected representatives can do to obstruct Donald Trump. And they've told people that they can call their elected officials and recommend that they do these things if they don't think they're fighting hard enough. And after getting thousands of calls from Democrats, the response isn't, wow, it seems like people are really pissed off. Let's use this to our advantage and channel their anger. Instead, the response has been, how dare you insinuate that we're not doing enough? The hubris, it's just unbelievable. Now, when it comes to Richie Torres in particular, he's not just sitting on his ass. He's been collaborating with fascists in Israel for more than a year and antagonizing his own constituents who are begging him to stop supporting a genocide. I mean, this man represents the poorest district in the country, but he spends all of his time representing Israel. And on the subject of fascist collaborators, I'd be remiss to not let you know that Congressman Ro Khanna is trying to position himself currently to be the progressive successor to Bernie Sanders in a future presidential run. But this man cannot be trusted, okay? And I say this as somebody who's spoken to him personally, who acknowledges that he has graciously offered to come on the show after I've criticized him, and I give him credit for that. But the problem is that over time, the fuck-ups add up, and they become blinding, where you can't see anything but the fuck-ups. So he missed a vote to subpoena Musk, and then he gave the excuse that he didn't know. Okay, fine. Now, that's suspicious still, but what makes it worse is the fact that if you look up the Friends of Doge, Ro Khanna is one of just a couple of Democrats listed as a friend of Doge. So I'm sorry, Ro, it looks like you're a collaborator and not a resistor. That's what it looks like. You could prove me wrong. Now, Jared Moskowitz was on there too. He's been criticizing Doge on TV, but yet he's a friend of Doge, according to Doge. So there's a lot of snakes in the Democratic Party, and I think we need to be mindful of the fact that even if a Democrat says the right thing and claims to be an ally to progressives, it's not unreasonable to have a healthy dose of skepticism. It's not unreasonable. You're not purity testing if you look at the actions and you say, hey, this isn't really lining up with what you say. With that being said, the main problem is leadership at the end of the day, because they set the standard that everybody else follows. And Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries, they've made it clear that it's okay to prioritize corporate donors over your own constituents. They've made it clear that there's no penalty for members who basically become turncoats and vote with the Republican most of the time. They haven't done anything to light a spark under the asses of other members of Congress to get them to actually do what their constituents want and fight Donald Trump. There is a leadership vacuum in the Democratic Party, and the people who actually want to fight, the younger, more progressive members of Congress, they need to be elevated to leadership, okay? Chuck Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries, they have to step down. So, even though they're fed up with our calls, call your representative, okay? Politely ask them to oust Democratic Party leadership, because it's not a matter of them being pure enough for us. It's a matter of them not being able to meet this moment. It's a matter of survival as far as I'm concerned, and we are not going to survive Trump's presidency if those assholes are in power still, if they're the face of the resistance.
I'm Alex Curtis. I'm a lobsterman in Maine, and this is me.
I'm Roxy Sugar, and this is me.
I'm Eric Hopkins. I'm an artist, and this is me.
This is me.
Me.
This is me.
This is me.
At the end of the journey, the main thing is you. Original.
Did you know that baking soda and ice cold water is the crucial secret to reach firmness? Just go to the kitchen and do this before going to bed.
I never stopped to think about that.
Exactly. It's simple if you think about it. There's no miracle. The only thing that makes a man firm is increasing blood flow to that area.
That's what the famous blue pills do, right?
Yes, but they do it by dilating the veins. That's why they don't solve the problem permanently. There's only one way to permanently fix this problem without relying on pills, prescriptions, pumps, or exercises, and that's by clearing out the veins that are clogged with plaques. That's why the Indian doctor is getting so popular in the media. He discovered an Indian bull trick that can clear out more than 93% of the plaques. This brings 20 times more blood flow to the area for men. That's why this trick is so effective. A top research team at Johns Hopkins University investigated and confirmed that this trick works for any man, regardless of age. There are already over 62,000 men in America alone who have permanently reversed the problem.
When I saw that I could get firm again without taking any pills, I couldn't believe it. It had been years since I was able to perform.
For over 6 years, I couldn't stay firm. My marriage was terrible, and my wife left me, and we got divorced. That's when I found the Indian bull trick recipe, and I still can't believe I'm firmer than when I was 18. Now I'm dating a woman 20 years younger than me, and she's very satisfied with my performance.
That's incredible.
I told you it's something innovative, and it's been proven to work for any man. I'll leave the link to the free class here for anyone who wants to see it. So, click the button below and watch the free video with the full recipe.
But why isn't anyone talking about this in the media?
This trick was recently discovered, and since it was found, blue pill sales have dropped by over 60% in India. The industry is very worried that this natural trick will become popular in America. That's why they're doing everything they can to keep it from being publicized. This free class has already been taken down twice, and it's close to being taken down for the third time. And this time, it looks like it will be permanent. So this could be the last chance for those who need to see this information. Click the button below and watch the free class with the complete step-by-step guide.
With all due disrespect to anybody who voted for Donald Trump and is now surprised that his actions might be detrimental towards them or their communities, go cry me a fucking river. Especially, with all due disrespect, if you are a Latino who voted for Trump and now you're shocked that he could be deporting people en masse when that's what he fucking told you he was going to do. Case in point, this dumb fuck.
This is so crazy that we voted for Trump. We trust him with the word that he promised us Latinos. This is crazy that starting next week, multiple cities will be hitting immigration. That is so crazy that multiple people are scared to go to work. When I work at, a lot of Latinos did not go to work, and that's crazy because we have a living too.
You think it's crazy that Trump is doing what he told you he was going to do? You think it's crazy that Trump is actually engaging in mass deportations when he ran on mass deportations for 4 fucking years? Now all of a sudden you're like, I don't believe he's going to... Why could he possibly... People are afraid to go to work. No fucking shit. Because idiots like you voted for him. Personally, I hope your family is the first one deported. Personally, I hope your family finds themselves in another country by the end of the day today. Tom, how could you be so cruel? Because this woman heard what Trump said he was going to do, still voted for him, and now has the unmitigated sack to go, we all need to come together and do something about this? Yeah, you want to know what's going to get done? You're going to try and figure out how to visit your family in another fucking country, boo. What needed to be done is you idiots needed to not vote for him in November to begin with. I don't feel the least bit sorry for you or any member of your family. None of them. Not your husband, not your kids, not your cousins, not your abuela, none of them. Your aunts, uncles, none of them. I hope they spend the next 4 years running for their fucking lives because of what you did.
Be a part of the entertainment value of a lifetime.
I loved it.
It was the best performance I've seen in a lifetime.
I loved the show. I liked it very much. He's a very entertaining man. It's well worth the money.
Now appearing in Charlottetown, coming to Halifax November 6th to the 18th, and St. John November 20th through the 26th.
Welcome back, everybody. Okay, so as you can see, there's a lot to complain about because the Democrats have left a lot to be desired, I think, in this lukewarm opposition they have against Trump, and it's, you know, pissing people off. Okay, they expect to see a little more kickback on them, you know, more backbone, more guts, more spunk. And the thing of it is that this is a problem that I see that needs to be addressed. Politicians like diapers have to be changed often, okay? And when these politicians stick around in Washington, D.C. too damn long, they become open to bribery and stuff like that. And before you know it, these people aren't even the same people they were when they started their jobs, okay, when they were younger. Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, Susan Collins, all these fucking people, they need to be ousted, okay, primaried. Get rid of them, okay? They've outlived their usefulness. That goes for the Republicans too, okay? These old people, they sat in those fucking chairs holding on to it like they're holding on to their shit, okay? And they won't leave. And what have they been doing? They've been sucking up donations, bribes from people who want their vote, and they forget about who put them in there. And there's an article here that come out about Maine farmers are left in limbo by the federal funding freeze. Where's Susan Collins? You know, she okayed RFK Jr. to be the head of the goddamn you know, health industry there in the country, of all people. Who the hell greased her palm for that? You know, I couldn't, you know, everybody's so pissed off at her over that. And you know, it's not that I'm surprised. She's been doing shit like this here for quite a while now. She's taken the side of the MAGA nuts here quite a bit here. She acts like, oh, I'm making a big decision. I need time to decide. I'm concerned. And then she does exactly what everybody doesn't want her to do. Okay, she puts on a nice act, like she's trying to weigh the fucking issue like a judge does in a court case. But instead, she already knows where she's going to go, but she ain't going to go there quickly to make it look like she's, you know, that she got, you know, that, because if it looked like she made their decision like that, then people would know, yeah, she got paid somewhere. No, she plays the game like she's trying to struggle with the big choice. And the choice, if it was really taken seriously, should have been, no, I'm not confirming him. Because everybody in the country was saying this guy ain't qualified for that fucking job. Okay, he just ain't. But, like I said, she decided against the people, and that's not what they're supposed to be there for. They're not supposed to put their interests ahead of ours. Okay, the majority rules, right? If the majority of the country doesn't like RFK Jr. in that position, then she should vote accordingly. She's not there to exercise her fucking judgment there, you know? If that was the case, then Kamala Harris would be president today instead of Donald Trump. But no. No, we let the Electoral College make that fucking choice, you know, and all this crap, you know. But that's the point. You know, these people are not doing the job that's mandated to them by the Constitution. You know, you get elected to represent people that elected you. You don't get pushed there because you're smarter than all the people that voted you there. No, you represent. Okay, like a lawyer represents you in a court of law. Okay, you decide, you know, how that, if you don't like what that lawyer's doing, fire him, get another lawyer. But that lawyer is supposed to be there to represent you, your interests, jealously fucking defend you in court. Name a politician here that these days, other than AOC Bernie Sanders, okay, then that's jealously defending the population these days. Not even the Republicans have that, my friends, okay? They're all in it for themselves. You know, it's like, what was it, George Carlin had said, it's a big fucking club out there, and none of you are invited into it. When did that happen? I thought we were the club, and the representatives were the ones invited into it, you know? No, all of a sudden now that's all turned around. Okay? You see how things have changed in 250 years? This is it, folks. America died last year. The last death nail in the coffin happened last year, election time. This country voted out democracy. And the Democrats are not really putting up much of a fight. Like somebody said, if another president, a Democrat president, had done half of what Trump has already done in the last 3 weeks, he would be out on his ear, out of the White House. The Republicans would never have allowed him to stay, not even one fucking minute longer. They would have found a way to kick him out, okay? Where are the Democrats to do the same? They ain't there. Now, talking about people that, you know, have taken a stand against injustice in this country here. That young man there that shot that CEO in New York City, Luigi, he finally released a statement, and it's short and sweet, but this is what he said. Quote, I am overwhelmed by and grateful for everyone who has written me to share their stories and express their support. Powerfully, this support has transcended political, racial, and even class divisions, as mail has flooded MDC from across the country and around the globe. While it is impossible for me to reply to most letters, please know that I have read every one that I have received. Thank you again to everyone who took the time to write. I look forward to hearing more in the future, unquote. So, yeah, there's people that it crosses the political lines about, you know, how the healthcare industry is just ripping people off and causing people to die, you know, by the choices they make, you know, the decisions that they imbue on people, you know, like, oh, I'm going to cover you or I'm not going to cover you, you know. That's something that this country at some point is really, really, really going to have to fucking just, you know, figure out how to change, because we can't keep going down like this, you know. It's ridiculous, you know. And I hope that you know, whatever comes out of what's happening with Trump and everything, that, you know, people will wake up and get serious about issues and stop fucking around with things that don't really matter or concern us. Okay, you know, like social, you know, like LGBTQ and racial stuff and all. Okay, that's not even a fucking issue that people are grappling with. That's just a personal tolerance problem, okay? But we need to get back to some serious fucking talk here in this country. Real issues that affect real people all the time, okay? You know, I think it was yesterday, or maybe last night, the Russians had launched a drone. And, well, first let me tell you this. Okay, you know Chernobyl, right? That was that Russian nuclear power plant that went bust there back in the 80s. Spilt all kinds of goddamn radiation, okay? They were picking that shit up around the globe. Well, over the years, people were trying to figure out how they can, you know, secure that. And so what they did is they built this huge fucking dome over the whole facility, okay? And they said it's supposed to last 100 years. And it's supposed to contain the radiation inside, okay? While they got like these mechanical things and people and radiation suits that go in there and try to fix stuff, okay, that's in it. You know, I don't know what they're trying to do, but they got it covered to try to contain as much of the radiation as they can. Well, yesterday, the Russians launched a fucking drone, and what did they hit? That fucking dome. And they put a hole in the side of it, okay? And now there's radiation coming out of that. You know, if they're going to go to the scorched earth policy, which is what they seem to be doing because they're losing this war, okay? I say, look, that is an act of war against the entire world. So, I think the world has every right to respond to that. Okay, now this has gone beyond NATO, or gone beyond the fucking Ukraine incident. Now they're putting the whole world in jeopardy. So the whole world, like Poland and all these other countries that, sit along their border. Hey, it's time to push the fucking buttons. If Putin wants to do this, if he wants to try to start World War III, I say we oblige him, okay? Because that's what this is. He attacked something that's putting the whole world at risk, okay? Just because it's sitting on Ukraine's soil doesn't mean that the damage is only going to stay there. That's going to be more radiation circling the world again, okay? Until they fix it. But that right there was a dirty fucking hit right there, and like I said, I mean, of all the things that they destroyed, killed, and all that, okay, now this is getting out of the confines of the war here that was supposed to be just inside, Ukraine. Now they're putting everybody at risk now. So now it's time for people to say, look, he's committing war crimes right and left. I think we got more than enough grounds to say that all of NATO should just arm up and go right into Russia. Okay? If this is the way he wants it, then that's what we'll give him. That's my opinion on it. I don't know what other people think, but I think this is ridiculous. Just like Trump, we're letting Putin get away with all kinds of crap. And I feel like this is, if Biden was president, I don't know if he would have done anything different, but at least we wouldn't have half of NATO against us because of the fucking jackass that's president trying to wage a tariff war on everybody in the world. This is a ridiculous position we're in. Now, here's something else. This is from NPR. They had wrote here, a public State Department procurement document for the fiscal year 2025 listed the purchase of $400 million. It comes as ethics experts raise conflict of interest questions about Tesla CEO Elon Musk, who is a top White House official. So Trump administration is going to purchase $400 million worth of armored Teslas. Armored Teslas. Can you... Okay, so this is how an oligarchy works, I guess. I just cannot see that an armored Tesla is going to be something. I mean, look, the fucking Humvee. I remember when I was in the Air Force, nobody liked the Humvee. They said it was the biggest piece of shit they ever made, And then, of course, when they put them out in the desert, the damn things were just. They had to put new armor plating on the bottom of them because of the IEDs. The damn things are getting ripped in half. So I can't see that these Teslas being used as military, armored, I don't know. But apparently, Trump's giving him all kinds of money, hey, we'll buy your Tesla because the American public is really getting pissed off. I don't know if you heard, but a lot of people with Teslas now are getting vandalized. They're finding their cars getting spray painted on, a scratch on them. Some people throwing a finger at anybody driving one of those things. I'm not saying it's everywhere, but I'm just saying, there's people complaining about it that, hey, I'm driving a Tesla, but now I got to be careful where I go because, hey, if I leave the vehicle for like an hour or something, I might come back and find that it's, damaged in some fashion, So people with Teslas, they're, hey, it's like, remember I was saying, people better not be wearing those fucking red MAGA hats or take those bumper stickers off. And I saw that lady in the parking lot over at Hannaford spray paint over that guy's Trump sticker that he had on his car. Hey, people are so predictable. It's like when we had the Iraq war, I knew that anyone that looked remotely Iraqi in this country that still would be American, if they look Muslim in some way, they're going to be a target for people taking their anger out on. That's what's going to happen here, okay? Tesla is the symbol right now. People hate Elon Musk. Even Republicans don't like Elon Musk right now. So guess what that means? If you're driving one of them things, whether you voted for Trump or not, okay, you're going to be a target. Somebody's going to get pissed at you. I see maybe one or two of them things around town here. Not many people have one here. They maybe just a couple, I've seen, but that's it. But I imagine in other parts of the country, they're probably more. You see more of them. Okay, I don't know. But people. Here's the thing. people were getting those cars because they thought it was going to help the environment or something to that degree, okay? So I would imagine that a lot of people that bought them were probably Democrats because Republicans don't give a shit about the world being clean. That's why they drive around with those loud, ugly monster trucks that spew fucking smoke everywhere they go, okay? You're not going to find any of them because, hey, they were bitching about Tesla. The minute they started to put them out on the market, they were saying, oh, them fucking things ain't worth a shit. The batteries are no good. You know, the MAGA was already trying to discourage people from buying them. Okay? Well, now, now they have a new reason to hate it. Okay? And it ain't got nothing to do about the Tesla. It's about the person that owns the company there that makes those fucking things. Okay? So Tesla is going to be, you know, like, I mean, their stocks are going down. That much is certain. I mean, they're losing stock value, which means the wave of hatred against Elon is getting to be more than the company itself can probably withstand. So I don't know what's going to happen as a result of that. If Elon's going to just dump Tesla or what's going to happen. I don't know. I really don't know. But all I can say is if you own a Tesla and something breaks down on it, you're probably going to have a hard time to repair it because the company that makes the parts for that fucking thing may not be around too much longer if the trend keeps going with all this anger towards Elon Musk and his company. You know, so I would say, I know a lot of people, because the car is fairly new and people that have it are still paying on it, right? So I know it would be hard for them to trade it on another vehicle because they would take a hit financially. So I don't know what to tell these people. I mean, you bought something that perhaps you shouldn't have bought. Maybe you should have, you know, done a little bit more digging on the person that ran this company, you know. I think if you would have found out more about him, like he was from South Africa, he grew up in apartheid, you know, he's got these very narrow views. I mean, I don't know. And that's really, you know, all I can say is that, you know, if you buy something, because Tesla is a pretty new thing, you know, there's never been a Tesla until Elon Musk. So if you went and bought a vehicle like that and you didn't really know much about the guy that runs that company, you took a risk. You know, you took a risk that this guy was actually somebody who cared anything at all about what people's needs were. I mean, obviously he don't. And I just don't know how else to put it, but, you know, we would expect that, you know, your legacy car manufacturers out there would create stuff that would give people the option of a hybrid or an electric car, and you could buy from one of them. But, you know, this guy here, Elon, I mean, the more we learn about him, the less we like him. You know, and it's sad that so many people are on the hook to this guy for all kinds of money because they went and bought one of them damn things. So, I don't know. A lot of people are caught in a pickle here. And, you know, it might not have happened that way had people, you know, voted, you know, for a different person for president. Just saying, you know. Now, this other thing that come out here about Maine here, it says the Republicans in Maine, okay, the state Republicans, they're withholding MaineCare funding over abortions and trans care. It says funding for MaineCare is currently being held back by Maine Republicans. They are demanding funding for trans care and abortions be removed, and it looks like they are going to get it currently. It needs a 2/3 vote. It's currently sitting at 50%. And the Republicans are refusing to budge. It's been in the news, but none of them are mentioning it. It's over abortion and gender-affirming care. There are more up-to-date articles, but just trying to push this out as much as I can, as fast as I can. Please share. So, you know, when you got the dickhead in charge of MAGA setting the example, the Republicans will follow, you know, in lockstep behind him. Okay, he sets the example, they follow. Everybody here was saying, "Oh, I'm glad we got a Democrat governor here. This, things won't." I told you, Maine is not a blue state; it's a purple state. Okay, it was more red at one time in my lifetime than it is blue now. I mean, it's just it never was blue, to be honest. But it's a purple state, which means there's still a lock on this state by Republicans. We might get a Democrat governor, but that Democrat governor is going to have a hard fucking time doing anything, getting anything done. Okay, they already hate her guts here, our governor, just for helping us during COVID. When she was sending out checks, to help people, with their needs and stuff like that. People got pissed about that, and that goes all the way back to the fucking SNAP benefits of people in Maine getting mad about folks using that, buying lobsters. I mean, you know what I'm saying. Maine people are a jealous people. Okay, when they see somebody getting something that they're not getting, they attack them. Okay, that's how we are here in this state, But yeah, you see, Republicans are going to be stubborn, and they're going to hold the line until the Democrats capitulate. And what do you think's going to happen? In this state, they will capitulate. Democrats in Maine have never been Democrat. I hate to say. We've always had Democrats in Maine who are could be easily swayed to the Republican side. And that's because, they know that, at least half the state is still, red. And they get their fucking donations in a lot of the same places Republicans do. They're not going to bite the hand that feeds them. Okay, so I feel like this is crazy. But yeah, this is what's going to happen. We're going to have an abortion ban, by default in this state. And people that are trans are not going to get any coverage from MaineCare about that. And let me tell you something, folks, about MaineCare. It never really was a great system in this state. I know somebody who's been using MaineCare, and they are so fussy about what they are going to cover. And she has arthritis, and the medicines that they only allow her to use, I mean, they are so stingy with that, it's awful. Okay? So Maine, like I said, because we have a Democrat governor, it doesn't mean that this is a blue state. Okay? Republicans still have the upper hand in this state. They always have, okay? Unfortunately. So, I suspect our next governor will probably be a Republican. So, I hope that, it doesn't happen, but I know it will. Because one of my axioms is always expect people to do the wrong thing. And I've never been wrong half the time. I just never been wrong. People will always do the wrong thing. I should have held to that axiom during the presidential election, no matter what happened with Biden and all that. I should have just held on to that and said, no, people are going to do the wrong thing. And they always do. I mean, hardly any time in my life have I ever seen people do the right thing. I don't know why that is. People ignore their instincts. People fly right for the flame. It's like a bunch of moths. They want to get burned. I don't know what it is. It's a fetish. I don't know. I couldn't tell you. All right. So anyway, that's it for today. I hope everybody has a great rest of the weekend. Today's Saturday, tomorrow's Sunday. So subscribe, comment, and share, and keep your ears open for any health issues. And please treat each other like a community. Okay? We're all in this shit together. And it's not going to help any of us if we try to isolate ourselves from one another, and take that, what do they call that? That fucking, isolationist attitude and bring it here at home. Okay? I'm sorry. At some point, you're going to have to acknowledge your neighbors. Okay? That's the only way you're going to survive in this world now with Trump in office. So please, put aside your fucking walls for this time. I'll talk to you all later.